My name is Todd Bacastow. I'm from Penn State University, and I'm going to ask the question, what is geospatial intelligence? And try to walk you through some of my thought here. I might add, when I put this presentation together, I let my son review it. He works for one of the sponsors of this program, and he looked at it and he said, don't get too academic. Don't be a professor. So I've tried to not do that, but if I do, I apologize beforehand. First, I'd like to thank everybody for the opportunity to come to Delhi and to give this presentation. It has been a phenomenal opportunity for me, and it's a great honor to speak to this audience. Please, I hope this is an opportunity to open a dialogue that will continue for years. So what is geospatial intelligence? Am I going the right direction here? Nope, went the wrong way. There we go. I have a very short agenda. I'm going to do a brief introduction. I'm going to define geospatial intelligence and try to end with 5 needs. Let me introduce myself first. I am a professor of practice at Penn State. Let me amplify that a little bit. This is a second career for me. I retired from the Army where I was, as so kindly introduced, a faculty member at the U.S. Military Academy. I am now responsible for Penn State's Geospatial Intelligence program, and I have been for probably the last 15 years. It gives me somewhat of a unique opportunity and experience. I came from the realm where the discipline was actually emerging, and I like to say I actually helped to develop and build the first GIS that was introduced to elements of the U.S. Army back in the 1980s. It gives me a very unique perspective. I, in fact, was a technologist. My PhD is in geographic information systems. I've actually converted somewhat, and you'll probably see that transition as I go through and really relay to you the story about my experiences and what I believe, and hopefully you get a dialogue on what geospatial intelligence is. Okay, let me try this again. Okay. Wow, what happened to that? My and goals should be together, they were before. Anyway, my goal is to advance, ultimately my goal is to advance geospatial intelligence professionally across the globe. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that. That sounds like a big mission, but hopefully I can do this. Okay. I have used PowerPoint before. Let me talk briefly about Penn State University. That's the institution I come from, which really gives me the platform to do what I'm trying to do. It is among the top 50 universities rated by the Academic Rating of World Universities. We have almost 100,000 students. Significantly, 13,000 of those are online students, about 600,000 graduates. And we are the leader in the online education realm, particularly in geospatial. We have served over 5,000 students with 4-credit geospatial programs, includes a Master's of GIS. Master of Homeland Security has a geospatial intelligence component and a number of certificates. We have had over 70,000 students that have participated in geospatial intelligence or geospatial related MOOCs, and I'll explain what a MOOC is towards the end. Okay, so let me give you my journey a little bit, come back to the question, what is geospatial intelligence? About 15 years ago, when I became responsible for Penn State's Geospatial Intelligence program, I actually worked with the U.S. Geospatial Intelligence Foundation. We created the accreditation criteria. And at that time, we really just followed the existing definition, and I'll show it to you, which really led us down the path of looking at GeoInt as technology in 2 realms. It's either GIS or it's remote sensing. Over the years, as I began to look at the quality and the students coming out, particularly as they did analysis, I realized that we were missing a component. It is not just technology. So that has really taken me down the path of looking at what geospatial intelligence is, or GeoInt, is in a very structured way. And I looked at actually 5 different types of definitions in doing that, and I want to run through those and then come up with the 5 things I think that probably typifies what GeoInt should be, and also things that we should strive for when we educate people for the realm. Okay. First, you can define GeoInt, or geospatial intelligence, as a list of processes. And if you've been around the U.S. geospatial intelligence community, this definition will be familiar. It's the Title 10 definition. And I think, and please someone tell me if I'm wrong about this, I think the United States might be the only place that actually has a definition for GeoInt in law. And let me just briefly read this. The term geospatial intelligence means the exploitation and analysis of imagery and geospatial information to describe, assess, and visually depict physical features and geographically referenced activities on the Earth. Geospatial intelligence consists of imagery intelligence, and geospatial information. Actually, there's a lot of meaning in there, but it takes a lot of thought in order to pull the meaning out. I would say this, and I have said this in front of U.S. groups too, this definition was politically contrived, though, in order to create a wedge place for an agency called the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency to fit between a number of other U.S. intelligence agencies without having overlapping responsibilities. But it's broad enough you can probably do a number of different things with it, as in case the U.S. NGA has. But it really doesn't help me. It doesn't help someone who wants to become a professional. It doesn't help the profession form. It just gives a list of things. Another way to do it is look for a synonym for the term, or you could call that a nominal definition of GeoInt. And this is the one that I see a lot. I've had people tell me that geospatial intelligence is just spatial analysis used in a U.S. intelligence agency. I disagree with that. There are some special things. This does not work. And certainly it doesn't tell me what I would do in educating someone. You could also look at and try to define GeoInt or geospatial intelligence. You could classify it by the concepts within the name. Geospatial intelligence. Geospatial pertains to or relates to the relative position of things on the Earth's surface. Actually, that has a lot of meaning. Relative position on the Earth's surface. Could be a lot of things. Intelligence is information that provides insights to meet the needs of the decision maker. I think we're getting there. This at least helps me in a sense that I know potentially that the tools of this discipline or trade, whatever we want to call it, could be remote sensing and GIS, are tools that enable the analyst to do an analysis that assists the decision maker. Look at another way, describe by context and usage. So you could say, and this is pretty much classic image analysis in a way. I have a series of images looking at, I think it's a North Korean nuclear site, so you can use it to discover, describe, and explain where things are for military targeting purposes. Very classic image analysis, which is geospatial intelligence. Could be humanitarian though too. This example is from the Satellite Sentinel project, where they're using really geospatial intelligence principles, concepts, tools for humanitarian efforts in Africa, looking at destruction of villages, looking at atrocities, tracking them. George Clooney's involved. As he says, it's really sort of an anti-genocide paparazzi. But, it's taking these principles of geospatial intelligence quite clearly and applying them outside a defense realm to some other use, for example, in this case, humanitarian. Could also be potentially in the cyber realm to look at things, using tweets and retweets, and that's what I have here. Hashtag Japan is that was after the tsunami. Hashtag GOP is a political one with the United States, but you can see how things are clustering. You could take those tweets that are geocoded, you can map them, you know you have two separate groups, you can map the groups, you can see where those two separate diversions of people are located. You do the same thing with hashtag Egypt, which was the Arab Spring, and hashtag Syria had to do with the civil war in Syria. It's geospatial intelligence. Many, many other purposes, many, to include environmental, to include business. The principles, I think, apply a lot of places. But what are those? Well, I started out, in my first slide, I had a quote by Socrates. Let me sort of paraphrase that quote and just say, to advance the profession begins with understanding the essential qualities of geospatial intelligence. Let me try to delve into, over the years, I've tried to pull out the 5 essential qualities. Okay. First essential quality is GeoInt, using quotes around that probably, identifies a discipline and is internationally accepted. This conference is in fact proof of that. The theme, GeoInt, enhancing combat potential. In India. The term GeoInt, which oftentimes is stated by people within the United States as a U.S. particular intelligence agency term, I've been told that it doesn't occur outside that. In fact, it does. It occurs across the world. We need to understand that that term has meaning. With that meaning, then, we can begin to pull together an understanding of how we prepare both technology and people to use those technologies. GeoInt is ultimately about outthinking an opponent. Now, the image I have here is, in fact, from the typhoon that hit the Philippines. An opponent could be a human. We oftentimes think of an opponent as a human. In this case, I've sort of humanized the typhoon. But if you think about that, you're trying to outthink the typhoon. Where is it going to go? Can we move populations away from it? Or what is the impact on those populations that happen to have the typhoon pass over top of them? We're trying to think like that. Now, it's easy to think about some things like a typhoon because they follow the laws of nature. But when we're talking about the human realm, it's a little bit more difficult to outthink a human because humans tend to follow different rules, if there's any rules at all. Potentially, we could say humans follow the rules of culture. But we're trying to outthink that opponent. In other words, this is a cognitive process. It's a cognitive process aided by the tools of GIS and remote sensing technology. GeoInt provides the decision maker with the advantage of insights about the human use of geography. I have a picture of a couple years ago, the Taliban attacked a U.S. camp in Afghanistan. And the picture of the Taliban commander pointing in a map. That individual used the geography when they attacked. I started out my life as an infantryman. I appreciate train analysis when you're moving to an objective. You can also look at train analysis the other way. How would someone move to your objective? Geospatial intelligence provides the decision maker with an advantage, those insights about how someone will use the geography. But it need not be a combat example. It could be where do I want to locate a McDonald's. It could be a business example. If I locate a McDonald's, who will use that? Will the humans use that location, that geography to go there? Important thing is, though, it has a human component to it. If it doesn't have a human component to it, my contention is it's science and it's not geospatial intelligence. It should go off to some entity or group that does scientific work, that doesn't not have a direct impact on providing insights to decision makers about how humans will react. GeoInt methods are an integration of intelligence tradecraft in geoinformatics. That is to say, it is an art and science. I oftentimes equate it to medicine. Medicine is an art. The doctor will use x-rays and other technology in order to examine me, but ultimately it's an art when they come up with a diagnosis. Geospatial intelligence, GeoInt, is very similar to that. It is an art and science. This is actually an important point when it comes to educating someone. Science is articulated. I can get a textbook about something in science. It's been defined, it's been tested, it's been written. Tradecraft is not. Tradecraft is learned through experience. On Monday I went to Agra and I saw the carving in the marble. That's a trade. They learn that by doing. We learn the tradecraft and geospatial intelligence by doing. It's a combination of that art and science. That means you really need to give someone practice in doing along with the technology components. That is an epiphany for me as I came through and realized that, because what I found as we actually investigated it, in some cases, even after we educated someone in technology, they were learning a very significant part of their job, actually what we would call OJT, or on-the-job training. They're learning that tradecraft component. GeoInt may require secrecy, since any decision advantage disappears if insights are given to the opposition. Now, within the realm of the United States, secrecy, particularly if I go in an academic group and I say, we want to keep something secret, that is very foreign to academia, particularly in the United States. In the United States for academia, I ask permission before I collect data, and then I give it away at the end of it. That's not intelligence, obviously. Intelligence, you don't ask permission, you don't give it away, because you want to keep that decision advantage. But it's not just for military purposes. It's obviously important there. But what about sports, the example I have here? I'm not going to give the opposing sports team my game plan. I want to win. If I'm business, I'm not going to give the opposing business my business plan. I want to grow. So secrecy should be acceptable, and understand could be part of the discipline, or maybe even part of the tradecraft. Okay, so it really comes up with 5 needs in terms of, and you could say these are actually 5 things that make geospatial intelligence or GeoInt unique. One, we need to recognize it's international. It's not just United States. It is international. 2, we need to be able to teach someone, or I even like to say, very poor English, learn someone. It's the difference between teaching and someone actually learning it. Techniques to adapt to the opponent's change. That is, you need to teach them how to outthink the opponent. They need to think like the opponent. It's a cognitive process. You need to integrate that human geographic perspective. How the human uses geography and is laid out across the landscape. We need to apply GeoInt's unique tradecraft, things that are not articulated or passed down, unique to the circumstance, to the organization, along with the science. They have to be integrated effectively. And we need to know when and when, to conceal sources, methods, and insights. And actually, that's important. Sometimes, if you're doing something to aid relief for a disaster, sharing the information, even though it's against what you normally do, can be very important. That needs to be taught, and taught clearly, about when to do that, when not to do it. So how am I going to do this? My goal was to change the world when I started out. And I mentioned a thing called a MOOC. So here's how I'm going to try, just to slightly nudge the world in a direction. MOOC is a massive open online course, free, not for credit, scales to thousands of people. We had a colleague of mine, Anthony Robinson, ran, twice he did this, a MOOC titled Maps in the Geospatial Revolution. It's available, the URL there. I'm not sure when it's going to run next, but it will run. He had over 72,000 people register it, 50,000 were active, and tremendous involvement, great success. If you want a single reason I'm here, why I wanted to come when invited, is we had 199 countries participate in his MOOC. The USA had the largest number. India had almost 6%, which is phenomenal, quite honestly. And you can see in the map, you can see that cluster of dots over India. Great participation in that MOOC. We are going to launch, or more specifically, I'm going to launch a MOOC called Geospatial Intelligence and the Geospatial Revolution. It'll be offered beginning January 2015. It'll be 5-week, 1 credit equivalent experience, free, no cost. The lessons are there. I'm going to talk pretty much about what is GeoInt. I want to involve the world in that discussion. And the lessons will involve some lectures, and then it will involve discussions and some activities. And one of the activities in the first lesson is to open up, what is GeoInt around the world? I want to define that. Even to be more honest, I want to take what people say participate in the MOOC, and I want to use that to form a consensus around the world. We're going to talk about GeoInt data collection, or GeoInt data collection, a little bit about the trade craft, and then we'll end with an exercise. Hope to address the 5 needs I talked about when I do that. Best part, it's free. The URL there, you can actually go to the landing page and see what the course offers. So I'd like to close with that. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'll be here for the rest of the conference. I welcome your insights. It's been a great opportunity. Please come up and talk to me. I want to learn from you. Thank you.